Thank you for tuning in to another episode here at Airbnb Rental Empire. What I want to talk to you guys about today is the sleeping giant in the short-term rental industry. Now, this is a true sleeping giant that is going to affect all of us here in the near future. Now, who is that sleeping giant? The sleeping giant in this case is the Chinese economy. I know this maybe sounds crazy to some and that sort of thing, but this is very real, and the Chinese economy is a behemoth in the global space of tourism and hospitality, which is obviously the space that we're in. The Chinese population is about 1.4 billion people, and the Asian region as a whole is about 4.5 billion people out of a world population that has 7.9 billion people. So it is a large share of the global population, and they also love to travel, that is for sure. You have to understand, put it in context with COVID-19, they have been completely locked down for the last 3+ years. Even though the West has basically opened up their economies in recent time, the Chinese economy is only now opening up as of, just a couple weeks ago. It's really crazy how much longer they have been locked down versus everybody in the West. They've had this Chinese zero COVID policy, and now they've started to lift that because of unrest in the country largely. The population has basically had enough of it. And now they're going to unleash that entire economy back into the world with tourism dollars to spend. And you have to think about it. They have had, again, it's called zero COVID policy. They have had complete lockdowns over there. I mean, really, really archaic style lockdowns where they're welding the doors shut of apartment buildings so that people can't get out so that there's no community transmission. So even if people had money to spend, like here in the United States, in most cities and most places, we've been able to spend money at least domestically on some restaurants and stuff like that. They haven't been able to do anything. They haven't been able to travel. They haven't been able to go to restaurants locally. They're getting groceries delivered to them and that sort of thing. So those people all have this savings they haven't been able to spend for 3 years, and now they have those dollars that they are going to introduce back into the world economy. Prior to COVID-19, China was the world's most important country for the world tourism industry. They had about 155 million tourists annually that were spending $250 billion in the world economy for tourism and hospitality. Now, just in the United States alone, that number was about $36 billion annually. That is a lot of money that was going to the industry that we are in, which is the short-term rental space, hospitality industry, tourism industry. That is a lot of money that is going to be coming back now, and also money that they were able to grow during COVID because they didn't do any spending. I, for example, back in about 2015, 2016, I used to get my check-in instructions translated to Mandarin because I had so many Chinese tourists coming to my arbitrage properties at that time. I had a ton of them coming from China and from the whole Asian region as a whole, but the Chinese tourists in particular, I translated the instructions for them because a lot of them didn't speak great English, and the instructions were very detailed in terms of how to get the keys and how to get into the property. But that is how many that I used to personally deal with prior. This was a couple years prior to COVID. I don't know exactly what happened. They did seem to dry up a little bit prior to COVID as well, but it was also the geography of the properties that I took on changed a little bit from what I had. But nevertheless, they are a giant, and they were that important to my personal business that again, I was translating those instructions into Mandarin. Now, another point that this ties into, which is very important, is the likelihood of us entering a recession in 2023 is very high. It's a pretty wide consensus that we are going to enter a recession if we're not already in a recession in 2023. And a recession obviously is going to hurt people in the tourism industry, people in the hospitality industry such as us. The people that are booking our properties are coming and they're spending disposable income. This is leisure income. If it comes down to putting food on your table or going on a vacation, you're obviously going to put food on the table first. So if we enter into a recession, that is definitely going to affect the short-term rental space. Now, the Chinese economy that I'm talking about here, this sleeping giant, that has an opportunity to be a big offset for that. If we enter a recession here in the US and domestic spending goes down for tourism and hospitality, but then we have that influx of Chinese tourists that are spending their $36 billion annually in the United States, that is going to help a lot of struggling Airbnb operators at that time. I'm not saying every Airbnb operator is going to be struggling. That's not even a fact, and it's not even a fact that we're going to enter a recession. But what is a fact is that the Chinese economy has reopened now and is in the process of reopening. I think there's still going to be a little bit of start and stop because they have, strains. They have strains that they're going through right now that are really ravaging their economy in certain areas. But again, these are Omicron. It seems to be mostly the Omicron variant, so it's not very severe cases. So we're going to have a bit of a stop and go here, I think, for the next couple months. But nevertheless, the economy has been unleashed again, and these tourists are going to leave China and start traveling internationally again. When they start traveling and spending those dollars again here domestically, that is going to make a big difference for us, and that's going to be something that is going to be able to boost our revenue and keep us afloat and keep our revenues higher if they're being offset by a reduction in domestic spending because of a local recession. So that is what I think is going to be kind of an X factor that a lot of people are not thinking about in 2023 and beyond for the tourism industry, for the Airbnb industry as a whole, such as we're in. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. Please send your comments. I'm here to answer your questions, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Thanks again.